The avian flu outbreak is wreaking havoc with our egg stocks. Many retailers either rationing amounts that customers can buy or simply out of stock. There is talk now of importing eggs. The flu has affected at least 30% of our country's poultry, and millions of birds have already had to be culled. Let's bring in now Dr. Abongile Balarane. He's the General Manager of the South African Poultry Association's egg organization. Dr. Balarane, thank you so much for joining us. Could you start by giving us a scale of how this avian flu has affected egg stocks? I mean, how many eggs do we have in the country at the moment compared to normal stock levels?
No, thank you, and thanks for having me tonight. Usually, under normal circumstances, we've got about 27 million layer hens. That gives us eggs on a daily basis in South Africa. Now, since the beginning of this outbreak in April this year, which started around the Western Cape area with a strain called the H5N1 avian influenza, it spread down up to the areas of Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Limpopo province, and some parts of Free State, and also KwaZulu-Natal. Currently, what we are having in areas of Gauteng and Mpumalanga, we've got a strain called the H7N6 strain, which is more of the most devastating strain in the industry. To date, if we look in terms of the numbers from that 27 million layers, we've already culled 5 million layers, and we are expecting that in terms of the spread, of this H7 strain, we could reach up to, let's say, around 8.5 million of the industry being affected, which then result to a percentage figure of around 30% of the industry being affected wholly by both the H5 and the H7 strains.
So are you, what's the outlook for egg availability? Is it going to get worse before it gets better?
In the short term, we are likely to have shortages of eggs in South Africa. You might have seen, or the consumers might have seen, in some of the retailers, their signs put that there's no availability of eggs due to the avian influenza. But what we are also doing as an industry at the same time is that we are trying to fast track the importation of liquid eggs and egg powders so that we can cover the industrial uses as we are approaching the festive seasons. So if we can be able to cover the industrial uses, what we have locally in the market will ensure that at least some of those eggs that were meant for industrial purposes will at least land to the shelves so that at least the consumer have eggs. There are stores, I'm aware, that have already put signs that each consumer can buy up to, let's say, 1 tray of eggs per person. So it is quite serious in terms of the shortages at the moment.
So you say in the near term it's still going to be pretty bad. How long is it going to be this sort of current situation, do you think? How many weeks or months?
Yeah, if we focus on the affected layers or the ones that have already been culled, let's talk about the 5 million that we know it's already been culled. To restock that 5 million layers, you're talking of about 17 to 18 months at most for you to be back to the normal, production of the country. So it's going to take us a bit of a while, a couple of months. But the fortunate part is that we are working very close with government to ensure that, we fast track the processes around the permits, issuing of permits for the imports.
So you said there's 27 million hens that lay eggs in South Africa. 5 million have been culled, and you might have to kill, what, another 3 million or another 8 million? I wasn't sure. Is it culling another 3?
With an additional 3 that is suspected to be affected.
So that's basically a third of the laying hens that have to go or have already gone. Does that mean that at that point, I mean, you mentioned the H7 strain of bird flu, and that, as you say, it seems to spread more quickly. Am I correct? It also has a longer incubation, so you don't always know if a bird is infected?
With this H7, it really surprised us because we were learning actually the H5 for some time as a country. We are still looking at the data of the H7 What we used to get from the H5 is that you'll get the spreads, from farm to farm or from wild birds, to commercial birds. But with the H7, it appears that even if you apply the highest level of the biosecurity, it still penetrates the farms. We suspect it's also moving through the wind. And now that we are approaching at least the warmer days and the rainy season around Gauteng and other provinces, we are hoping that once it starts to rain, perhaps this might reduce the pressure. But it just moves, with a speed that we are not understanding. But we are learning the H7 strain.
So this is a new strain that's wreaking havoc. So did we, you say even with biosecurity that it just moves so quickly. Did we fail to inoculate, or is it a case that we actually don't have the right jabs to inoculate?
Currently, we are not vaccinating the birds in South Africa, but for one of the long-term strategies, the discussion has started between the industry and government. We are looking at the possibility of vaccinating for both the H5 and the H7 strains. But there's a process that we need to follow, which is, steered by government. So we are hoping that, or we bank on government, for the vaccines to reach South Africa.
Have we never vaccinated chickens? Is it just not something we've ever done?
We do vaccinate for other issues like the Newcastle from day-old chicks, but currently for the highly pathogenic avian influenza, we don't have vaccines for that.
I see. So in other words, you said we're relying on the weather, which will hopefully sort of help eradicate this. Do chickens also get immunity? Can a chicken recover and then there's immunity? Does it sort of just, how does it work?
Yeah, with the H5, it was clear that, if you suspect it on the farm, within 24 hours, you can see the stress or the mortalities. But with this H7, the birds or the hens, they don't die or, immediately. So they take some time. And we're also learning that it appears that others, they also do recover in the process. But, it's all about science. Our vets are working hard to understand and to learn this H7,
Gosh.
how it actually behaves.
And tell me,
but it's a really complicated.
yeah, it
Yeah,
does
sorry.
sound it. We're less than 3 months away from Christmas, which is a festive time, lots of baking, lots of cooking. Do you think that we will still be facing a severe egg shortage in December?
Now, yeah, so we will have the shortages on the table eggs. So hence why we are trying to speed up the importation of the liquid and the powder eggs, so that we cover, for the baking industry and the mummies who enjoy, baking around the festive season. So those eggs, those shell eggs that were destined or were meant to go for processing will then be channeled to the retailers and shelves, so that the consumers get the eggs. We are also, or we have already reduced on our export program to our neighboring countries, just to ensure that at least we put the priority of the local people at first.
It's a difficult time. Thank you so much for giving us an update. That, of course, is Dr. Abongile Balarane. He's the General Manager of the South African Poultry Association's egg organisation, and he says that at least 3 million laying hens are still due to be culled. And this H7 strain seems particularly virulent, really worrying times indeed. It's going to be a long road still, but plans for imports at least.